Microphone check, 1, 2, what is this? It's the 5'7" assassin in the podcast business. I am your host, Rohan Patra, the rap music plug at your service.
Here we are again at the end of a rainbow.
One of the primary reasons I decided to move to Toronto last summer was the vibrant music scene in the city. So going to many shows was really the extent of what I expected. And I surely got that, but what I was pleasantly surprised to see, though, was a solid community of underground rap fans that I kept seeing at many different rap events, many of which were hosted by none other than the pride of Toronto's hip-hop underground, Raz Fresco. Raz is an artist whose career spans over a decade, featuring cosigns and collaborations with true OGs such as Raekwon, as well as features a prolific run of creativity in recent years, punctuated by his fantastic 9-part Magneto Was Right series, and other records in recent years such as Marvelous Right Wrist and Secret Wars with DIBIA E. Not only does his catalog speak for itself, but his passion and respect for the art is energizing and comes through loud and clear in this latest episode of the show where I sit down with none other than Raz Fresco. You don't want to miss this. The Rap Music Plug podcast presented by QLC TV is the remedy to the I don't have anything good to listen to problem. Through in-depth album and song reviews, as well as artist interviews and general rap commentary sprinkled in between on all of what the mainstream and underground rap scenes have to offer, this is your one-stop shop to knowing what to add to your queue, play next, or pop into your record player. Welcome to the show. Raz Fresco, how you doing today?
Peace. I'm good. It's cool. I'm here in the bakery. You know what I mean?
Happy to have you on.
Projects, music together. You know, a lot of new plans, a lot of new things coming, man. You know what I mean? Getting ready to take some things out the oven. You know, so.
Yeah, we'll definitely get into all that what you got coming up, but I just gotta say you're doing.
How you doing, man? How you doing?
And I'm doing great. I'm really excited to have you on because, like, I moved to Toronto in July, right? So you've been not only making great music, but you've been so engaged with the local rap scene here. And I know we'll kind of touch on that in a bit more depth shortly in this convo, but I've made the joke before that I moved in July 2022. I think I've seen you more like in person than I've seen a lot of my actual like regular friends. I've seen you like over 10 times, I feel like. Shows, listening parties.
You said more than some of your close friends, you mean?
Yeah, like for real.
Oh.
Man, I'm a busy guy. Like I still somehow always see you. Like and it's great. I'm like, I love the energy you're bringing. So I'm happy to have you here.
It's interesting.
And I want to start where we last saw each other, which was your concert that you had as part of this marvelous right wrist.
Magnetic right wrist.
Marvelous right. Yeah, I knew I was gonna fuck that up. Yeah, exactly. So in these shows, you had your Baker's Club crew who all killed it, along with SD Knack, who fucking ripped the stage incredibly. How did it feel being out there on stage for the first time in so long, and how was that experience for you overall?
Well, it was also my birthday too, right?
Yeah, that is true.
Born 27th, you know. Wisdom God Day is peace, man. I haven't performed in a minute, quite some time. Like the last time in the city that I had a performance like that was actually on my birthday, but in 2020, right before COVID hit, I opened for Jizza on my born day out here too. You know, so it's like full circle moment almost, and well, yeah, really, it's a full circle moment since before COVID, because like at that point versus now, like to put it into perspective, you have the Marvelous Right Wrist artwork in the background right now, and at that show in 2020, the Jizza show, I like teased one of the records from that album.
Nice,
you know, that wasn't even out or whatever. Fast forward 2023, I'm actually doing records from that album. It's been out. The whole 9 Magneto Was Right albums have been out, like, you know, so it's like I'm coming out as a new version of myself at that show versus in 2020, you know. It's like it's like a homecoming in a sense, kind of, you know, like coming back to the city and performing live all this new material, this new, like, you know, era of my discography, you know, so it's dope. because I got to experience that live. You know what I mean? That's just been like an online type of phenomenon
Yeah.
because COVID, you know, so being able to experience that live engagement, that live interaction, you know, it's dope. It's refreshing. It was refreshing, you know,
Yeah, for
especially
sure.
just
Like,
after the set, especially after the set is done, and I'm just like, you know, that just that moment of like, okay, wow, like, you know, it's a dope show. Everyone is expressing how they felt, because for a lot of people too, it's their first show in a while, like, you know, a hip hop show
mm-hmm.
they've been to, and people were just expressing how good it felt just to be in that moment, you know, and experience it. So it was a good thing. It was beautiful.
Yeah, it really
It was
was.
beautiful.
It was
So
very
yeah,
wholesome. Like
it
the
was
vibes were
beautiful,
just,
refreshing.
yeah.
Yeah, it was beautiful. Not to cut you off, it was beautiful. It was refreshing, and yeah, it's just an overall great experience.
Man, you guys killed it too, like just like on a technical level. Like, cause you said obviously, yeah, it's your first time in a while. It didn't sound like it. Like not only you though, your Baker's Club crewmates there, Knack, of course, like everybody just really brought their A game and like really came prepared. And because it was cool though, I really liked the way you kind of structured it where you like had like Funk Gridfall, like you had them have their own set, Six have their own sets, but then like as you performed, you kind of like brought people back into the fold and then brought Knack in. Like it was just felt very organic. It felt very like this is like a family thing. Like we're just kind of putting on a show. It's not just like, okay, my turn, and then it's all me about me. Like it was very wholesome in that way too. Just a good energy.
Yeah, you see, it was like I had to just wise and delegate with the amount of time that we had versus, like I said, it's like the run of the night, just a couple of hours. And in a couple of hours, I'm trying to curate the right experience to like basically give you an overview of almost like 2 years of releases, you know? So I had to like
Mm-hmm.
really just think like, okay, everybody obviously needs their time to get their music off. And at the same time, like there's been so much collaboration. So I can't just do just my set. I gotta bring everybody in as well in a structured way, you know. So it was a lot of thought put into that as well. And like I'm glad that people like for you to have that observation, see that you're able to see that you can see and do the knowledge and see that there's thought put into this, like you know. So I'm glad that it was received well because you know that was the plan that I put together. I definitely wanted it to be wholesome and inclusive and everybody to shine as well, not just only me. Even though it was like Raz Fresco Magnetic Right Wrist tour, like it's also a Baker's Club thing too. So I definitely wanted
Yeah.
that to be the vibe and energy, you know. So because it is and it was tricky because it's like there's so much music, you know.
Yeah,
There's so
for
much
real,
music.
man.
So I was like, man, there's really like you know 9 man, you know, like albums, Secret Wars, Boulangerie, and then like collaborations, like you know. So, but I tried to just be like very wise and swift with it, you know, and I feel like with observations like this, it just reaffirms the fact that yeah, you know, it was a good curated show, you know. And
Mm-hmm.
that's all I was striving to do is curate a good experience, let everybody shine, let everybody do their thing, and let everybody that came into the room get to experience like the unique vibes that everybody has, and also be able to experience the whole inclusive nature of the club together. And you know, me do my thing as well with all the releases I've done and just make it fit, you know. So I'm glad that I was able to do that.
Yeah, no, I can shine through. And you know, so you've been rapping for a long time. Like it's not like you just blew up on the scene like a year ago. Like you've been really putting in work for over a decade. So could you give some insight into, you know, like the beginnings, like why you pursued rap and how that really all came to be?
Okay, you see how like you got your origin stories, like yo, I was in high school and I was with this guy and he's like, yo, you should have, you know what I mean? These type of origin stories, like
Yeah.
I've been rapping for so long, I don't have no origin story. There's no like birth record for my rap career type of thing. Like, you know, it really goes back to my earliest memories as far as just like rapping, you know, like in the first grade having rap books and like, you know, the second grade, you know, so it's like as my memory in life starts to get fuzzy, you know, your memory starts to get
Yeah.
fuzzy, like those still developing your memory. You're still developing your brain as soon as you get out of the womb, right? So you're not gonna have a clear recollection
Yeah.
until a certain time passes. So as my memory starts to get fuzzy, that's when my like rap memories start to get fuzzy as well. They're connected. They're one, like, So
Mm-hmm.
it's like as soon as I'm developing my memory, I just remember rap, So
That's
I can't
hilarious.
really tell you like the exact origin. I really can't. It's like this is as soon as I was young, exposed to the music, I was just growing and developing. As soon as I can, my earliest memories, as long as like learning, like grade one, kindergarten, all that. I'm starting to have rap books already. So
So I
it's
guess
just
we
been
we
with
could
me.
we could put it
So
this way then. What was, and maybe it doesn't need to be like again exactly how you felt back then, but just earlier on, whenever you can remember, what was it about rap that kind of made you gravitate towards it? Was it just like a need for self-expression? Was it just like you fucking just grew to very much love a lot of rap music that was coming out at the time? Like what made you do it at least?
well, yeah, exactly what you just said. Like, it's just it's self-expression. That's the simplest way that you can put it. Because as you're young, you're listening to music, you're exposed to the music. And me as my young self, like, I would like at one point you're rapping along, and at one point you're thinking in your head, you might change a word or two. Then you just start beginning to write your own rap. So that was like basically the very young genesis of it for me, in grade one and kindergarten, and you know what I mean? And having my rap books, that's what I was doing.
Hmm.
Like I have early memories of like, back in the days he had Kazaa. I don't know if you know about Kazaa, LimeWire,
Oh,
Bear
LimeWire,
Share.
yeah, yeah. I
I
don't
used
even
to,
know
you see what
Kazaa
I'm
though, but
saying? Okay,
LimeWire
yeah.
is the
So I
one.
used to,
Yeah, yeah,
so those like now we talking like a little bit back in the days or
yeah. That's
whatever.
like
You talk
oh
about
five, oh
LimeWire.
six. Yeah.
So again, so 05, 06. If I'm born 95, that's like I'm 10, 9 years old, right? And I'm downloading like rap. I'm going on there, so like looking for rap instrumentals to download and then record myself on a little computer mic. Burn CDs. Sell CDs in my neighborhood. This is like things I was doing in like the like third, fourth, like fourth grade. By fourth grade, like grade
Hmm.
four, grade five, I was like recording myself rapping on computer mics at the crib and burning CDs and giving them to people in my neighborhood. Having little ciphers and all of that. So from that point on, this is something I'm like. From that point, it's something I'm doing. I'm invested in, and I already knew like, yo, this is what I want to do. So from there till now, it's just been constant process of development. You know.
Yeah. No, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
And so as I mentioned earlier, like as a newcomer to Toronto, coming in last July, I was just really blown away by how involved you were in the hip hop scene here. Not only giving space for your own music, of course, but also creating spaces for other aspiring artists to get together, network, showcase their craft, kind of have fun that way. Particularly through the Flip a Beat Club that you started with like DIBIA E and others, the various listening parties that you've hosted.
I didn't start it with them, but I added on.
Oh, okay,
I can't
okay,
take
yeah.
credit for starting from a beat club.
Hmm.
That's definitely Mondrag, DiBiase, them over there in Sacramento, and me seeing what they're doing, the same way you're acknowledging what I'm doing, and seeing just the positive um, effects that I can have on a community level. You know,
Yeah, yeah, no, and I
and
thank you for
me
that
being a person like,
clarification
oh
there.
shit, I'd like to
Yeah,
replicate that same thing over here. You
yeah,
know,
and it's been that was like truly one of the most unique. I mean, every event I've been like Flip B Club event I've been to, like it's just very unique. And I was also just flatly impressed by the quality of everything. Like I was like, okay, this is dope. When I first heard like people started making their beats and performing or playing them, I'm like, okay, if there's some whack shit here, it's like okay, cool, it's all for fun. But honestly, like,
and it's like that. Even then, that's perspective. That's
yeah,
perspective.
yeah,
Because
and
there's
that's
shit
just
that's
a
on the radio right now and it's making
exactly.
millions and shit. Yo, that shit is whack. But hey, somebody's fuck millions of people are fucking
Million
buying
people are
that shit
fucking it.
right
Yeah, it's just
now.
always at the end of the day, it's a subjective thing. But I was just impressed by how great everything was. Like really, I was like, holy shit, this is some super creative shit made in like an hour. And so yeah, just how like why have you felt so compelled to cultivate this kind of sense of community in the rap scene here in Toronto?
Hip hop is a culture. I love hip hop, and when you go to the roots of it, that's what it's about. It's a sense of community. It out of people because remember, like hip hop started like in the gutter. You know what I mean? It was raw back in the days. New York, it's a raw scene. Like so it's very raw, very real, and people was able to use art to bring a positive sense of like growth and use their creative potential in a positive, constructive way. So that's just the raw simplicity of it, providing people a space come together and use their creativity in a positive way, in a constructive way, like minds.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's really the raw basis of it, because we need spaces like that. You know, because it's build or destroy. So it's like, if there's without spaces like this, you know, you want to encourage people to be constructive and do creative things, because we live in a world that is forced. It's like pushing us to do the opposite.
Yeah, and I
So
think
someone that's striving to have like a positive effect on people, that's like a way that you do things like that. You're allowing, like, you know, more positivity to flourish, you know, good things to flourish. A lot of these people that come, like, there's a lot of times where they might even second guess themselves, but when they play the beat in the room and everyone's vibing with it, you know, you can feel them, like that elevation within themselves. You
exactly.
see the faces
Yeah.
elate, like you can see, like you just smiled right now because it went in your mind. You went back to it in the
Mm-hmm.
room, like, oh shit, you can see that generation, the generation of positive energy flow that's caused
Mm-hmm.
by that, you know. So yeah, and that feels good, man. You know,
It
so that's
does.
the drive to want to do that. You know, I know it's needed, and it's like, as someone who would like likes hip hop, I would like to go to some events like this. So it's either you can like just wait around for me, I was like, I can wait around for these type of events, or just proactively try to, like, you know, spark it off. You know,
No, that's great. And
create
I
that
think
ripple effect.
I think also something coming from, like, as I said, I moved to Toronto in July but of last year, but I was usually, I mean, I lived and born and raised in Ottawa, and I had, without, before I really started to get tapped into more like underground music and just getting more and more into hip hop, I had a pretty negative, not, yeah, I had a pretty negative view of Toronto, kind of like, not necessarily hip hop, but just like R&B, the R&B hip hop wave, because like I feel
You mean
like
like
when
the more popular music?
yeah, yeah, exactly. Because it was not very informed. It was definitely a very uneducated opinion. And I was just going off of, like, obviously there's Drake, who I definitely like Drake's music for sure. He's very talented, but I feel like a lot of the offshoots of what happened when Drake blew up, in my opinion, it's just really, again, it's my own taste, really not for me. That like very atmospheric, kind of ethereal, in my opinion, very drab, kind of like R&B sound. It's just so boring and so generic, and it just got so popular. So it's just everybody makes the music. And coming, like, not, it wasn't this recent, but like slowly as I start to get more into hip hop in Toronto, I was just amazed by how much balance there actually is. And I think artists like you are doing a great job of giving that, like you said, that positive energy, that kind of yin and yang to what, is mostly playing in the clubs. And that's great. There's a time and place for that. But I think you're not only doing that, and you're giving people a place that, like, I feel personally like a lot of people are starving for that scene. It's not easy, unless you're like in a New York or like a really obvious hotbed for hip hop. It can get pretty lonely as like a fan that's not just into what's on the radio. Like I know that through the podcast, like in the kind of Patreon that I have, like that's the common thing that people are really happy about joining, because like, man, where I'm from in like Kansas, there's no one that fucks with Raz Fresco. Like, and I'm not trying to be mean here, but just like, there's nobody fucks with like Billy Woods, or like nobody fucks with, like, there's just people that are
Oh,
not
that's
tapped in it.
funny.
Nobody taps into hip hop, like, other than what's on the radio. And again, that's another conversation, but there's a whole lot of people that are just casuals, and like people don't like appreciate the art. And it's great to be in a scene where you can actually go out of your house and meet people like that. It's amazing. And I just have to give you mad props for that.
Again, like, you know, because here's another aspect of it too. I didn't really highlight this, but again, with the whole Flip a Beat Club thing, one, aside from like even just the name, Flip a Beat Club, biggest club, like, you know, that
Mm-hmm.
it's clubs, like two clubs, like, you know, right together. But I'm a producer aside from just rapping, you know, because I started, like, you asked me when I started pursuing rap. I'm telling you, like, yo, since mad early. But at the same time, I started producing like 7th grade,
Yeah.
which is like pretty early,
That's
relatively
mad
early as
early.
well, too.
That's mad early. Yeah.
So, you know, so that's been a part of the journey as well. You know, and it's like a tree. It's growing and it branches out, right? So me as this artist that's growing and branching out now, I have my artistry as a rapper and as a producer. So like part of that growth as a producer now, like on a physical level, is to do things like for the beat club, to create that sense of community as well, because that's how it's like as a producer, that's like aside from like beat tapes and producing different things, that adds on to that whole legacy of that of me in that aspect,
Mm-hmm.
the things that I've actually done as a producer. That
No,
gives
it's
me like a
great.
place. That's what gives a place for me to let that energy thrive as well. Because like in an event like that, I'm going and engaging with people, but it's not the same dynamic as let's say as a rapper. You came to the shows. That's a whole different dynamic. To me, I'm on the stage and I'm giving the music to you, and there's that's how we're giving the energy exchange versus like in the as a producer, it's a different energy
Mm-hmm.
in that community in that dynamic. I'm there and I'm amongst the people walking back and forth. It's a there's a different level of intimacy. It's just a different level of communication. So me doing things like that provides myself different ways to engage with people as well. Not just being trapped into the box of just like I can only go and do a show and rap in front of people on the stage. There's also different ways to engage with people and build
Right.
that sense of community because that's important as far as like just an artist trying to grow and develop my brand and myself as well too. Like
Yeah, I definitely get
having
the
a real
intimacy
connection with people.
aspect there. Like I know at one point you were giving people like a little a quick 411 on how to use one of those pocket operators. I was like, damn, this is fucking I think that was the first one I went to. I was like, damn, this is really cool. I did not expect to I mean, I'm not a producer, but I was like I was interested and that was really cool. I feel like people really gravitated to just the closeness of all those kind of events.
And here's another aspect of it too. It's like I feel like there's like certain artists that really like that disconnect. Like they really thrive in the whole feeling of like I'm right here and like I'm above the
Yeah.
people. And, I'm talking down to the people. Whereas like there's other artists who actually just want to just engage with people. And there's that whole dynamic of like above here and the whole separation aspect.
Yeah.
It's not really that's not cool. It's like a mini version of like 10% is doing. It's like you
Mm.
want to be separated above people and shit. So that's not how I am as an artist. So that's why just certain events, is important.
Yeah. No, 100%. And like just like about Toronto hip hop in general, like do you think it's growing and do you feel like it's
Of
gonna reach
course.
even larger heights in the near future?
Well, on the path that it is, on the path that it's on now, yeah. There's more artists putting out more material. That material is, in like is being received by more and more people. So it's creating more engagement with the content that's coming out of this community. So that's gonna just further grow the community. It's like yes, the recipe, everything's there for growth. It's just about the artist continually watering, and giving light and water to the scene, the
And I think
rose, the flower.
the proximity to Montreal is really important too, because obviously like you've been part of that cross pollination with Boulangerie, um, like Mike
I mean,
Shab,
yeah,
there like there's just the future weight, like there's just so much there's so much music coming out of Montreal and Toronto particularly, and then you guys are collaborating amongst yourselves. It's just like a ripple effect.
exactly. Like it's like these like minds are like bound to link up in a certain proximity, close to each other. Everything like we're on the same frequency. It's like we're doing this, like doing the same thing. I'm doing it over here. It's
Hmm.
generating interest. So I might have certain listeners who is also listening to someone from Montreal that's doing the same thing. You know what I mean? And I'm looking through some of my responses and I'm seeing some people be like, yo, you should collaborate with this person, collaborate with that person, So the work that we're putting out there is like causing like a feedback. And in that feedback, it's like bringing people closer together because you're going to be able to see who's working on the same level as you know?
Hmm.
So like these collaborations is just natural, just naturally forming because I'm seeing like, okay, I'm over here, I'm seeing the work Craven was doing, seeing the work I was doing, So these things are like bound to happen. It's
Yeah,
beautiful,
and on
It's all
the
organic.
yeah, 100%. And one of the ways that you've really kind of established yourself is and kind of your communities through your label, Baker's Club. So I'm very curious, like the origins of that and just the general vision you see for the Baker's Club moving forward. The way you, because I have to be honest, the way that like the website, the merch, the rollouts for albums, like it just feels very professional and like there's something big growing here. That's just my take.
Hmm. Well, yeah, that's exactly what it is, man. Like from a young youth. Well, couldn't go to it, but shout out to Raekwon.
Yeah.
Um, but nah, since young, I started making stuff like 2009. You know what I mean? Yeah, I was like, going to the ninth grade. And long story short, I just want to have a hip hop collective movement, artists that I'm working with that I think are dope. We put out music, and we just do it under one umbrella, one family. People that's on the same frequency of minds. That's how. Because I remember I started it in ninth grade, so it's just a simple concept. As far as this Baker's Club, bake cake, get money. And also getting baked or whatever. And then over time, as I grew and it just became more depth to it as well. Just the whole the knowledge self aspect that started to show within the music, so that started to grow within my own stuff. And just the concept of there's a lot of dope different artists out there, so you're just providing a platform for dope shit to be seen.
Mm-hmm. No, I love
and
it.
just growing the brand from there, because like the concepts and themes that are represented in the music, you know, taking that now, making that physical with the merch, and again, it's like that's what people are buying into, the whole concept, the themes, marvelous, Magneto Was Right, all this, so it's like a tree, it's growing. And these is as the artists grow and then there's more products that are dropped, everything just branches out, so that's my whole vision of it. It's like just to continue that branch out process, have everything organically grow.
That's good. That I love the way you said that. And you're speaking on something I wanted to talk about next, which is that spirituality, that knowledge of self. That's something that I really love about your music generally, is that there's these clear, like established themes, there's a structure, there's like a purpose in everything that you put out. And one of the consistent themes is that kind of like thoughtful knowledge of self type content in the lyrics. So I'm just very curious, like on this topic of like spirituality and knowledge of self, like how does that inform and inspire your raps?
Okay, well, rapping is something I do, right? And just being a 5%, it's the way of life. It's culture, it's the way I think. So I think mathematically, process everything. I see life as math. Everything's mathematical. So that's just that's like the foundation of everything I'm doing as far as like with my artistry. As far as just dealing with the truth, breaking down, just being a scientist, analyzing life and just giving my take on it, my observations. You know what I mean? And then the truth, as far as just, there's no mystery God, you know what I mean? Just leading people to the truth, to themselves, the power within themselves, so that they can, exercise their mind to the highest level. That's what I'm striving to do with my music, with my art, come with the illest level of my artistry, and grow, come with the highest level of my production. From that foundation, everything's gonna be affected by that. You know what I mean?
Word. And like, do you feel, because I know like one part of your music that I love too is like on this topic, you seem to be have a clear purpose to share this with like the next generation, like share what you've learned through your experiences, your hardships, your learning with the youth, if you will. So like, do you feel like a responsibility or something that drives you to share this with the younger folks out there?
There's you heard that proverb, it takes a village to raise a child, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like the children are the future. So anything you can do to inform them, to make them make wiser decisions, is going to create greater outcomes for the rest of humanity, the planet. So I mean, hell yeah, if you think back to yourself, certain things you might have learned and acquired, like certain knowledge and wisdom you might have acquired over the years, which has helped to grow your understanding and your mental comprehension of life, where you see life more clearer now. If certain of this information would have been conveyed to you at earlier points in time, that would have helped your quality of life.
Yeah.
If you could have reached that clear state of comprehension earlier. Exactly, because we see what's going on out here. Like, you know, you see people being, you know, it's like living this, celebrating a death culture through the entertainment. You know what I mean? There's violence in the communities. You know, and niggas killing each other. You know, and a lot of pitfalls that people are falling to. You know, I've been through things in my life as well, trying to rise above certain pitfalls. You know what I mean? You know, people are being like incarcerated and locked up. You know, so we trying to stop certain patterns. So the way we can do that is through the proper information. Because if people know better, they can do better. Or mean and be better. So it's like trying to be a part of that process. First, you know, inform yourself so you can do better and be better. So me, it's like just being able to like change my way of life by being able to like use my mind and focus on my creative talents and abilities, you know, and use that as a way to create like you know, livelihood and, you know, sustainability for myself. It's showing people that there's other alternatives, you know, alternative ways of being instead of falling certain pitfalls, you know, and getting caught up, you know what I mean, hustling, doing, you know what I mean, other things. So striving to be a good example of, you know, using your mind to, you know, create a good life for yourself.
Oh, that's special. That's really special. And so like with that, I'd really like to dive into like because you said you've been just generally a very prolific artist, but you've been on a very nice run over the past couple years, I'd say. And I'd like to just dive into some of these records. So I want to start with the flagship series that Magneto Was Right. You flooded the market with 9 full-length albums as part of this series, culminating with also the release of Magnetic. What is the background and kind of like overall significance of this Magneto Was Right series, like with the Magneto character? Like, could you kind of like give the people a bit of knowledge about what that's all about?
All right. Well, you know, the X-Men is like it's like a perfect analogy and like based off loosely off the civil rights movement with Professor X supposed to be Malcolm X. No, Professor X being Martin Luther King Jr. and Magneto being Malcolm X, and there's two schools of thought. And like mutants are an analogy for black people and original people, whereas one school of thought is dealing with assimilation into the system, you know, and one school of thought is dealing with using your powers for yourself. Like the mutants bringing their powers together and just building their own nation, they're doing their own thing, not trying to go into the society. Now, with both schools of thought, they're both just still mutants under oppression, and it's an analogy to original people. So that's me with Magneto Was Right. I'm saying, yo, this school of thought as far as doing for yourself, you know what I mean, and using your power. Because in the show we talk about like mutants with powers, like superpowers. But if you take that word power, the power is your ability to, you know, do work. It's the ability for you to exercise your will, you know, physically or mentally. So with it's your power, and that's based upon your understanding of the truth of life. Like, you know, because with that truth you'll be able to, you know, move accordingly. Right. So me, the whole analogy is take that power, you know, use your power for yourself and build up our own selves instead of just, you know, building up a system that's suppressing us, you know, promoting our death and pushing us towards like, you know, a lower quality of life. Let's just use our powers for our own self. It's the same, you know, it's the same age old battle. So I'm just using that analogy, the same way the show is using that analogy. I'm using that and packaging it in a familiar form. Same themes, same concepts, you know, but it's in a familiar form.
No, that's really interesting. I love the way that you kind of like I love the kind of the through line and how actually well that connects with what you kind of stand for because this is kind of just almost the exact same kind of message that you've been just talking about earlier about when you're talking about knowledge of self and the importance of all that. That's how did you come like when did that kind of click with you? Have you always been a fan of I know you're a big fan of like comic books and all this shit. It's clear influence in your music. Like when did this kind of idea come to you?
And that's a funny thing. Like it's like, you know, it's not like if you go back through all my music, just mad comic book, you know,
Yeah.
everything, you know. when like we all seen like the X-Men. We grew up and seen the X-Men on TV. So
Hmm.
there's that, like, you've seen those shows. So that's been like a part of my childhood. And as far as like the whole comics and all of that, right? Like growing up for years, like the only type of literature I was reading is like, just history books, like, books on science, physics, like very real, non like I wouldn't even see me in fiction like section.
Yeah.
Like, going fiction books or whatever, like, for years. The first time I read a book and it was like fiction, like just in my adult, like in adult years, like
Hmm.
willingly, is like I was like locked up. I didn't have no other like books to read except for like magazines and shit. So I
Hmm.
read some dope stories and shit. John Gershon, whatever, dope books and shit. But I've always just been reading mad serious, and just taking in serious content as far as this real life, trying to educate myself. And there was a certain point in time where it's like, I was doing that, and also going through mad real shit. I'm out. I mean, I'm on the road doing my thing, and shit was just very serious. So I was like, I read I started getting the comics. It's just like a form of like, yo, this is not. This is like some type of like relief in a sense, like it's like some, like just looking at all the art, the stories. It was like creative relief for me at a certain point in time,
Hmm.
right? It was like creative fuel almost, just to like take in, just fuel my creativity as far as just taking in something that's like just a wild, crazy story, like, just crazy art at that time. I'm making beats, and I was like, just have all the art there, and I'm just vibing. I'm like, yo, making beats that like are that match the scenes and all of this. So I was just using the comics as like creative fuel, and just diving back into that youthful energy of myself. You know what I mean?
No, that's really
So
cool.
that's
Yeah.
what it provided. Yeah,
The creative fuel, that's interesting. Because yeah, it's like it's not like a departure from what your beliefs were or anything like that, but just the
I don't use that word either.
what
Belief.
beliefs?
Yeah, because there's a lie in the middle of the word belief.
Oh,
I'm more so deal with knowing and understanding, because if I was to be like, yo,
interesting.
you believe, do you believe you're a man? Do you know you're a man? You'd be
I
like,
know.
yo,
Yeah.
because with the belief, there's a shadow of doubt.
That's interesting. Wow. That's a good way of putting it. And related to like not as much the content of these albums, but like the strategy, if you will. Like you released 9 of them, right? That's not a small amount. Why did you decide to flood the market, if you will, versus staggering these releases over like, 4 or 5 years like you easily could have, or even longer than that?
Again, like I was at a point in time where I just like, just felt like doing it. At that point in time, like if you look at my discography, that's independent for a couple of years at that point, I've been independent, but I mean like just me working by myself completely, no managers or nothing. That's how I was working since like the call it towards the end of 2017, right? So fast forward 2 years later, towards the end of 2019, I knew that I was gonna drop like this album called Marvelous Right Risk. It was gonna have a lot of personal stories and like be a time capsule of a large period of my life and different things I went through since after Pablo Fresco that dropped in 2015.
Mm.
So I knew I was working on that album, but I didn't want to give it away like that, like it's too personal at that time. I'm like I can't just like give it away, like like we keep developing this and build up my profile to a greater level. So around that time, I got the Magneto Was Right ideas. Right after I did the Truth is Stranger Than Fiction album, it was had this collab on me, Brisk, and like all the titles and the names were different like comic book people, like different superheroes and some villains and shit and whatever. That was the whole track listing. So coming off of making that, and while I was like in that period of like going to the comic book shops and just
Yeah.
as a form of like just doing something like chill. Because before then, like this is a time where I'm trying to transition in life too. I'm not out of one way of life, being on, getting money
Yeah.
a certain way, and trying to focus on my art, like just being artistic and shit. So during that period of time, that's when I like, sometimes go to the comic book shops and just you know what I mean,
Hmm.
read the different books and shit. You know what I mean, and just fuel my creativity. So boom, just the type of vibes I'm in. Just create, just new beats, looking at dope art, you know what I mean, and just getting inspired for art and all this. So I'm in that type of vibe already. I really got the full conceptualization of Marvelous Right Wrist, this project that I'm gonna do, whatever. But I want to give it out. So while I was in that vibe, I was like, yo, I need to make something else. And I'm online, I'm looking at different shit, and I'm like, yo, who didn't we use from the truth and the stranger and the fiction? Like, and I'm just like, I'm thinking like different people, and boom, like I already knew the Magneto was right in the whole analogy from years before.
Yeah.
But like when I thought about it again in that moment, I was like, wait a minute, like, and I had to double check, like, there's no like album like this already, like. I'm
Yeah,
looking
for
around,
real.
like, wait,
Yeah.
what? I'm like, wait, I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, nah, okay, boom, let me do this, and then like, boom, at the same time, like I said, like the foundation, my thinking, like 5% already. So I'm like, yo, I gotta bring this idea into fruition. I gotta born this. But then I'm like, at the same time, I've been getting different comics, right? There's different sometimes you'll have series, a different series. It was like issue 1, issue 2, issue 3, and it's like that creates a story. And
Mm-hmm.
that's a story in a greater story. But they'll have like even the fact that like Secret Wars, even though that's not part of the Magneto's, right, whatever, that name is like a comic book
Mm-hmm.
series. They have a series called like Secret Wars, right? And long story short, I was like, okay, if they have issues and they could be numbered, me being a 5-7, we deal with numbers, and I'm like, okay, I could do it from 1 to 9 and born this whole series. Like, I was like, that idea is ill. I can just acknowledge the board 1 to 9. Like, it's so same time I got the Magneto was right idea, and I'm seeing it in my head, like, I can do a series. Boom, I'm right away. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do a series 1 to 9, issue 1 to 9, and the whole idea just came, and I was like, oh, in that moment, I was just with it. I just went with the energy. So I started working on issue 1, and I finished it like in a week and a half, and put it out. And when I put it out, certain people hit me up like, "Yo, some of my favorite stuff from you, whatever." And in the back of my mind, I'm like, "Yo, what the fuck? There's projects that I worked on for like mad long and shit." And you know what I mean? The fuck you mean this is your favorite? Like, what are
Yeah.
you talking about? So I was like, all right, well, we'll just keep going with this energy, because like at that point in time too, there's just a certain creative freedom I just wanted to tap into. Like I was like, man, just fuck it. I don't even care. I'm just gonna do what I want to do, you know? Because I was years before that. Sometimes I had management with different
Mm-hmm.
people that I was working with before when I was younger, and I might have to like bounce ideas off people and this and the third. At that point in time, I was like, man, just do what the fuck I want to do,
Yeah.
and
Seems
I
to have
did it.
worked for you. I want to touch on like because you mentioned a couple of these records that I think are probably amongst my favorite, if not my favorite of yours, and that's Marvelous Right Wrist. When we spoke actually during the listening party for this album, you detailed the very like thoughtful concept behind the artwork that sits behind me right now, and how kind of like all these kind of elements incorporate what makes you you. And just hearing you speak about this just a second ago, but you said it was like a time capsule of your life. There was a clear intention associated with this album that was very personal. So, like, what would you say was that kind of main kind of a vision, if you will, or like theme that you wanted to put forward with Marvelous Right Wrist?
There's a lot of like, if you listen to the album, you can hear it's like a story of someone trying to like get through different trials and tribulations and reach a certain point of clarity and peace within their own self, regardless to whom or what, what's around them.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a real life experience. So I wanted to turn that into art, because I'm an artist and that's what I do is rap. So I wanted to take all these experiences and turn them into something that people can like gain positivity from. It's like turning a negative to a positive. It's like just energy transformation. Because energy can't be destroyed or created. So the energy that was created, like generated through those events, we want to take it and constructively form like a beauty out of it. You take some fucked up and just form like a beautiful masterpiece from it. And then give it more, like so these things that happen in vain. I can take beauty, make beauty out of these things. So it's like therapeutic within my own self. Yeah, turn these things into art and be able to look at it like and be like, wow, you find beauty in these things and grow from them. you know
Yeah, there's some
So it's like that
amazingly
growth
personal
process
stories there.
in life. Yeah, yeah, because it's like, make an analogy like this, like it's like, okay, something fucked up can happen, right? Something that you perceive as negative
Hmm.
happens. And it's like from that point, what are you gonna do? Let's say you make a painting about something like, that about that experience now. Time passes, you can look at the painting and find beauty in that experience, because you converted it and you transformed it into something else. You know what I mean? Instead
Yeah,
of letting certain energy sit with you, you
it's
know?
kind of like a release.
Because again, energy can't be destroyed or created, it's change form.
Right.
So that album represents me changing, forms of experiences into like, the art, the hip hop, the music.
Oh, that's amazing. I love that. And yeah, because this is out of all the records you put out, like this one had some of the most like, yeah, just the most obviously personal, obviously like touchy subjects, deeper kind of personal introspective moments. And I think it just came across perfectly. It ends with that like long kind of a conversation you're having at the end. Someone I know he's one of your OGs. Like that's just it really came across beautifully. Like I gotta say, and then nothing better than this artwork. Like I fucking love this artwork. I got the bandana. I got that hanging on my wall. Like it's
Oh,
just
okay,
beautiful.
that's peace. Appreciate it, man. Shout out my dude Stounson. He's the artist that created that,
Hmm.
Yeah, shout out to Stounson, We definitely did something special with that.
Yeah,
Yeah, Marvelous
yeah.
My Wrist, man. Yeah, so it's like a motion picture. It's a movie. It's mad cinematic.
Hmm.
You might need to have popcorn when you're taking it in.
Yeah, yeah. Kicking it off with Raekwon too. Like that's just couldn't really be better there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's another full circle moment too. Because like I said, this is like a time capsule. Everything from Pablo Fresco, like 2015. That's how I felt.
hmm
And on that album, that's when we first did the collaboration, Influenza. So it's like a full circle moment from there as well. It's like boom. That's why it dropped on the anniversary of Pablo Fresco,
Right.
7 years later.
Wow. Wow. And before we really look forward to what you have upcoming in the future, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention another record you just kind of touched on, Secret Wars. Just quickly, like how was the experience working with such a talent like DiBiase? Like that guy's a legend, and what you guys created is definitely just better than I even could have expected.
Yo, Dibby's Mr. Miyagi, yo. He's Mr. Miyagi with it. Again, he is just someone I was just taking in. I really fucked with his work. So I, watch beat videos and do his
Yeah.
thing, listen to his projects, and I kind of just put it out there online, like, yo, damn, I'd, I'd fuck up some DiBiase beats, like, I need to get a pack or some shit like that on my Twitter. And he must have seen it. And around this time, like you said, I was putting out a lot of shit. This is like during the Magneto Was Right series, like, during the issues. And
Hmm.
I think he, like, after we started speaking, I think he told me that he became, like, aware of my shit around the time I dropped Gorgeous Polo Sportsman because of the
Nice.
feature weight. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Fire shit.
Yeah, so long story short, when I put that out there, he kind of like, he responded. And then from there, we started going back and forth. And he was like rocking with the work I was doing. And I was putting it out there, like, trying to get some work in, and he was rocking with it. So he sent me a pack. Really, it started from like that first pack. And then when I got it, recorded like 3, 4 joints that same day, sent it back. But when I sent it back in like a little mix, you know? And boom, he sent me back another pack. And long story short, that week we just finished the project.
Wow.
So we just locked in, like, it's like, he's rocking with each other and just we just locked in, got it done. And I feel like again, it's just like when like minds, similar vibes, because I'm like mad chill, I'm just trying to just make dope music. Like, there's people who are just about all different aspects of the comes to the rap shit and just,
Yeah.
I'm just chilling, trying to make the music, and just good vibes, all that. So Dibby's the same way. So we just click. And so that is again, it's an organic thing.
Yeah, you guys just seem to have like a very similar vibe in the sense that you guys are just like really, you're like technicians. you really admire the craft. Like obviously DiBiase, like people associate like entire beat machines with him. Like when the new SP 404, like that new one that dropped like I don't know, like a year or two ago. Like I know he was like one of like I think he was like one of their like sponsors or like he like did some like promos for it because he's that established with that tool and in the community. And like you're like you're also a pocket operator guy. Like it's just it felt like a match made in heaven. And I do think like there's a certain energy, like an electricity with that record that I just loved.
Nah, definitely. It's definitely a special thing, man.
Mhm.
Shout out to Dibby. Shout out to the OG.
And yeah, I wanna like end this conversation by looking in the future here. So I know you're hard at work at as you typically are, but I've heard some rumblings about some exciting projects you got coming up.
Yeah,
So
yeah, what have you
what
heard? What have you heard?
I'll let you say it. I'll let you say it. I don't want to say
Ah,
anything.
ah. Yo,
So
what?
what
Yo, people talking crazy. What have you heard?
no,
You heard about you
I've
heard
heard
about the
shit from
Wyclef
you.
John shit?
I've heard so sorry, what?
You heard about the Wyclef John shit?
No, I have not. Okay, you gotta
Oh,
just
you ain't heard
give
about that shit? Or the Timberland shit?
tell fans what people should be on the lookout for. I've
You
never
ain't
heard
hear
that
about the
about
new
this.
shit with me and Timberland and Missy Elliott? That's dropping. You heard?
No, I did not hear the Missy Elliott joint. No, you gotta enlighten me.
Nah, I dropped it on SoundCloud yesterday, man. You gotta stay tuned now. You know, I'm really just fucking with you. I'm fucking with you. Definitely got some shit in the works. You know, me and Craven doing the follow up. Was out there
Yeah.
in Montreal. He's vibing. Me and Shabo, we cooking.
Yes, I need that. I need that. I'm
Um,
fucking oh, he's so dope.
where me and Sadu, you know, shout out Sadu. We've been cooking. We got a lot of joints. Me and Danielson, we cooking got a lot of joints as well. You know, me and ALS. That might be the
Nice.
next one. That might be the next one. You know, we just dropped Alchemy on vinyl too as well, Novelty
Word.
Records. So Alchemy is available for sale. But yeah, we might drop a follow up as well ASAP because we have crazy body records. What else collabs? As far as those three, what else? I mean, that's basically it. I don't know what you heard. You sound like you know what I mean?
No, I heard those. I heard those. The Sadu.
Okay, good,
I
good,
heard
good,
the
good, good.
Boulangerie follow up. That one is I
Mm-hmm.
think I don't know if you might have played at one of your events, you might have played a sneak peek to one of the joints on that.
Probably, I be doing that all the
Yeah.
time. Like, you know,
Yeah.
every one of the events, everything's done. You know, at the end, everybody's just chilling. You know, I might just, play one, two unreleased joints, be there vibing. You know, might happen.
Hmm.
You know,
No, but
it's a good reason to
those
pull
sound
up.
amazing.
Good reason to pull up.
100%. 100%. Man, I just gotta say, like, everybody check out Baker's Club website. All that'll be linked in the description of this episode show notes. But keep doing what you're doing for rap and just for Toronto hip hop in general. It's a beautiful thing. I'm really happy you came on the show to share your experiences too. For real.
Nah, man, for sure. Appreciate the love, man. You know, like I said, if you see you at the events, you know, it's all good. Just that's you also adding on and being a part of the community down here. You know, we striving to just make it grow. You know what I mean? And just expand. You know, and make everything just get bigger and better. So this is, I mean, it's all part of the greater process. You know? So,
Yeah, yeah.
I appreciate you as well, man.
Man, appreciate it. And yeah, with that, just can't wait to hear this new shit and hope you have a good rest of the day. Take care. Peace.
All right, man. You already know bakersclub.com, BKRSCLB.com. Yeah, man. You know, new music coming. Shout out Griff Fall, Funk Flow, Six Letter, Eric Wright, you know, ALS. You know what I mean? Yeah, man. Everything is real.
All right. With that, peace.
Peace.
So there we have it, another episode of the Rap Music Plug podcast presented by QLC TV. I hope this episode gave you some new perspectives and insights into what the greatest art form known to man in hip hop music has to offer. If you want to support the show in the most meaningful way possible, it would be my absolute honor to have you as a patron in the new Rap Music Plug podcast Patreon. Through this Patreon, you will be getting exclusive content such as bonus episodes, exclusive album recommendations, exclusive playlists, early access to episodes, and more. And above all, though, you will be able to support the show directly in a way that will not only justify the crazy amount of time I spend on this show already, but allow me to cover some of the expenses related to supporting all of these great artists that we cover on the show through the website, and will allow us to sustain and build on this amazing growth that the RMPP has experienced recently. So if you have any questions about any of the Patreon stuff, or just want to keep tabs on the show, interact with me on rap music and all the great stuff that we can talk about, follow me on Twitter and Instagram at rapmusicplugpod, or shoot me an email at qlctv.podcast@gmail.com. You can also rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts and subscribe on YouTube and Spotify as well. But that's enough self-promotion for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Peace.